Eight-Legged Freaks. What a great movie. Guys, if you have never seen Eight-Legged Freaks, and I understand if you haven't seen it, okay? It's probably not vastly popular. Where would you even watch this? Let's take a second and figure out where would it even be. YouTube for $4. I think it might cost you money. It might be cost you money old. Let's see where to watch. It looks like it's gonna cost you $4. Do you spend $4 on Eight-Legged Freaks? If you're bored and you want a different kind of watch, do it, okay? But when I was in pest control, spiders are the #1 thing you're gonna get a call about. For my arachnophobes out there, and I know for a fact I have a couple, this is probably not a video for you. It will have real spiders in it. So many more people are scared of spiders than you know. So many people, when they see a spider, they can only imagine it crawling inside of their fucking body somehow. In their ear, or in their mouth, or it being on them, or it's skittering around. That is so many people. We have these things called black widows. Everybody knows about them, right? They make these really messy looking webs, not the organized pretty ones. And in Vegas, in the summer, they're everywhere in people's like sheds, or like if they have a pile of tires in the backyard, any corner of your backyard you don't see very often. You look in there, there'll be this great big messy web, and a black widow will come out. And it scares the tar out of a lot of people. I get a lot of calls for stuff like that. For pest control, it's actually really hard to kill spiders, and there's a lot of spiders you don't want to kill. Like wolf spiders, you don't really want to get rid of those things. They eat other insects, they don't really bite people, they don't build webs. They're kind of good to keep around. They eat beetles and all other kind of stuff. So I really like to encourage people, like, hey, if you have spiders, it's probably because you have other pests. How about I leave the spiders alone in the backyard? Get rid of the spider webs around your house and in your house if there are any. I'll kill any spiders that I see if you want me to. A lot of times I'll relocate because, you know, it is pest control. I don't have to kill them if I don't need to. And then the very backyard you don't go to anyways, they'll just leave on their own. I'll just clear up the webs. The spiders will leave on their own. We don't have to actually kill them. But that's mostly because you see how in this picture here, the spider's only touching the ground with these little points right here. So imagine if you spray this branch with pesticide, right? And the spider's only touching it with those points right there. Well, how is that gonna kill a spider? Well, it won't. You know, quite frankly, the spider will be completely alive, completely unbothered by that. And that's just the reality. When you only touch the ground with a couple of points, the only way the spider dies to that is if somehow you get whatever touches that into there. So maybe you get it on a beetle, the spider wraps up the beetle and then eats the beetle. Then, okay, we probably have a dead spider due to pesticide. But other than that, there's very little I can do to affect the spider's life. He's gonna be chilling, you know, for the most part, if I just spray. You have to like kill on site kind of a thing. So we have like freezing sprays and stuff like that. But anyways, let's get into why you wouldn't survive Eight-Legged Freaks. It's a great film. It's got the hairspray, flamethrower, you know, scene, very iconic stuff. So
Do
very
you like
cool.
spiders? No. Arachnophobic? Yeah. No. What if spiders of all kinds were the size of a hippo or
Right.
even bus?
Look at this.
Are you arachnophobic now? Me too. Many diverse and expansive threats have scuttled, oozed, and slammed into the scenarios we have deemed unsurvivable. Infections, biomasses, and mind-altering apocalyptic enemies that would put us up on a silver platter for consumption or destruction. But sometimes the antagonist attempting to end you doesn't have to be overly complex. Sometimes just the idea of a big-ass spider is enough to give you a case of the heebie-jeebies. So what would happen if a colony of spiders made some gains at the genetic gym to outclass man and attain a new spot atop the food chain? Let's find out. Today, we are telling you why you wouldn't survive Eight-Legged Freaks'
Look at him wrap the
spider
guy. I'm about
apocalypse.
to say, show the one. Show the one when they wrap the dude up
Why
in here,
you
dude.
wouldn't survive
That's what I
Eight-Legged
like.
Freaks' spider apocalypse.
Oh
Out
my gosh.
westward in the good old state of Arizona, a truck driver was moseying through an old prospector settlement.
Oh, I
by the
forgot
name of
that's how it
Prosperity.
started.
The driver would find himself in a similar situation to BP Oil when he went to avoid hitting a rabbit and ended up accidentally knocking a barrel of toxic waste into
toxic
a
waste.
local water supply.
We are deeply sorry. We're sorry.
We're sorry.
Sorry.
My bad.
I'm deeply sorry.
spider farmer by the name of Joshua would soon come by the pond and unknowingly procure some crickets that drank from this tainted source. Feeding the polluted insects to his arachnids, the chemicals within the crickets had slowly started to change characteristics of the once tame arachnids, slowly changing everything about them from their physiology to them being way more intelligent and coordinated amongst their eight-legged masses.
Now, there is a concept there about how the environment consumes itself. You know, one small change in the environment changes the predator's, interaction, which then has effect on the rest of the species or whatever. That's a good life cycle thing that is still true to this day, obviously not to this extent.
This will also be followed by an insatiable hunger to devour prey. A tarantula named Tank eventually escaped its containment to stealthily bite Joshua. Normally, their bite would equate to nothing more than a bee sting, but with these mutations, did it cause Joshua to begin seizing up, to keel over, and die in the span of less than 20 seconds, all while it and 200 other spiders in the colony were still normal size. Joshua had led a rather introverted life, and upon death, no one attempted to contact him for nearly a week while his body served as a feeding ground for the spider horde. The consumption and constant mutagenic state of their anatomy allowed them to grow to the size of about cats and then eventually horses. Using the local mineshaft system that ran various tunnels underneath the local township, did the spider horde begin to prey upon local pets, wildlife, and even livestock to eat.
Dude, okay, at this point, there's still no spoilers. This is still the start of the movie. If you're intrigued to watch it, do it now. If this is you're like, oh yeah, I'm down for this is the moment you should go. Because I can tell the rest of this is going to probably review the rest of the film.
To either feed upon or to attack and retrieve to serve before their queen spider, burrowing below homes, businesses, and other high population areas to get the job done. Unwary people would find themselves quickly overwhelmed and either swiftly devoured or weaved into webs. Since the nature of the film was one of campy horror comedy, a resolution to the threat had to be simple and easily quellable, blowing up the entire spider horde in one fell swoop, along with the queen in the mine shafts of the town of Prosperity. But what would it realistically turn into if the spiders didn't immediately attack people in goofy ways, with the spiders deeming humanity too much of a threat in their first few weeks or even months? What if instead the spider horde bided their time and allowed their mutagenic capabilities to fully flourish? Let's just say it's not a pretty picture. If left unchecked, their growth would have no limit. They were destroyed by the end of Eight-Legged Freaks, where they were only a few weeks into their outbreak. Given more bided time, it's possible they could even grow to the size of elephants or even whales, standing as towering figures above us, ready to eat us like flies in their web.
He said, nah.
The spider's mutations could become contagious and spread amongst other arachnids across the world, or even just about any carnivorous insects that will be prone to the mutations of these toxic chemicals.
Wait, that's right. Because anything that would eat them would also get mutated. This goes bad
it was originally spread through an open water source and carried via crickets,
what about
the
fish?
Spiders either biting and infecting others or laying their eggs in areas near water or food supplies could lead the eight-legged mutagens to spread. The mutation spreading would mean anything infected could grow over 100 times their original size, becoming resistant to many types of damage and heightening their intelligence. Not only that, but coordinating with the spider horde to work as an effective hierarchy and unit to systematically hunt down all valid prey they can find and concern. All arachnids within the colony of 200 arthropods had various subspecies of spiders to draw from and use in its...
I call this an arack attack.
An arack attack.
It's good.
the spider horde being controlled and directed by hierarchical female queens looking to obey her every whim, as well as feed her so she may produce more.
That would
All
be
of
a
these units
horrifying
under the
update
guise
for
of this
spiders,
mutagen
dude.
working together in a veritable pack mentality to serve the purposes of feeding its own colony, no matter the cost. It is possible that these spiders could grow enough intellect to learn to infect areas with spiders,
the little
insects,
spiders come out of his
and more,
back, Jesus.
leading to them not only seeking to feed their queens in order to strengthen their numbers, but also to indoctrinate smaller creatures into their ranks, eventually creating more giant
You mean
bugs.
like insect
Even though
pets?
spiders aren't bugs, but you get the drift. The spider mutations would be wildly expansive, with each new arthropod, insect,
God.
and arachnid.
Oh man, this movie has no scene that's like that movie in King Kong with those gigantic
under
bugs.
its wing, or I guess under its massive dump truck of an abdomen. It would be effectively used in ways to overwhelm, trap, and devour the masses, even for the OG spiders from the original Prosperity
The
colony.
OG.
Now, before discussing the mutation's capabilities outside the colony, what about those that attacked the small mining town and what they are adapted to in their new walks of life? Due to the nature of the strengthened and mutated venom of the tarantula bite, it is very safe to say even a slight prick from any unit of these gargantuan arthropods would be instantly
snatch them off that
lethal,
thing.
or, in the very least, extremely paralytic or debilitatingly painful. All transformed spiders will retain this ability, as well as having a knack for ripping you to pieces or turning you into a liquid buffet. Each one will have moderate to extreme strength, and even be capable of adapting to elements like fire and more, while also being extremely agile. But more importantly, the spiders will use their diverse ranks as means of scouting, tanking, and more, basically like an army. The most numerous
Spiders becoming like a hive mind is that's a tough sell, dude. That is literally the end of the world if arachnids grouped together
violent
like
of
that.
the arachnids being the jumping spiders. Their powerful jumps are capable of closing great distances easily.
Oh
able
my
to
gosh,
catch
I
up
didn't
to
even
dirt
think
bikes
about
that can
that.
average maximum speeds of up to nearly 100 miles per hour and still take down its drivers. With further mutations over the span of a few more weeks, they could easily make even our fastest land vehicles
That is
seem slow
horrifying.
by comparison. This baseline infantry would constantly be out in the front lines, searching for prey by the countless multitudes to paralyze and or kill. Their numbers alone would dwarf most of what we can throw at them. Full-on offense against their nests will be mandatory to nip the problem in the bud. However, covertly
Full-on.
placed ambushes
This is like a combination of like human survival tactics versus like scouting the enemy based off of movie logic. This is kind of a fun one. We haven't done a video like this in a long time.
Burrowing into the ground, trapdoor spiders can camouflage in dirt, grass, and sand,
Right,
making
that would be an
pitfalls,
issue.
holes, and eventually digging tunnels to stealthily leap at and or ensnare prey to drag them underground for consumption, murder, or binding.
There's that planetary defense game this kind of reminds me of. You know that game about like fighting gigantic insects or whatever? We did that Seth video about it. This is like a great example of that in action.
Thousands of hidden quagmires of these trapdoor spiders could lie in wait for anyone that dares approach their nesting grounds, or even setting up shop in high-volume areas
Let's see
for
what
cattle
Seth is up
and
to.
other large animals for them to feast upon
not the
and
ostrich.
use to grow. With more traps leads to more weaker and fragile surfaces, making pitfalls, leaving all land resistance difficult to traverse. Never knowing when a trapdoor spider could pole vault from the ground to gouge you out and dismember you in the blink of an eye.
Good
Now, the
Lord.
most commonplace variants and basis for the hierarchical foundation of the spider mutations focus on a queen and a unified effort are the orb weaver spiders.
Orb
surprising
weavers are
victims by
cool.
sneaking into places and instantly spinning webs around them to cocoon and trap them. A horde of these basically spitter kidnappers would easily
Poor old
envelop
man.
tons of people
Ah,
and settlements
Lord.
quickly if not held off. possibly invading within the night through their makeshift tunnels and through open entrances into compounds made by themselves or by their brethren to capture sleeping or unweary survivors. When left alone, even real-world orb weavers can cause a nest of webs. Back in 2009,
look at that. I was getting ready. I was about to Google it. I was like, wait until you see what they're actually capable of, because the movie did not do them justice.
Orb
Look at this
can
shit.
Cause a nest of webs. Back in 2009, a Baltimore wastewater treatment plant housed over 100 million orb weaver spiders, where they had crafted a web system spanning 4 acres inside. It was estimated that for every cubic meter inside the plant, there was about 35,000 spiders, a testament to how much they could create via nests and traps and their exponential reproduction methods. Orb weaver spiders are able to produce up to 1,000 eggs at a time, and their young are able to mature in months.
Now this video is getting started
Size
now. Look at
difference
that.
could have you saying that the egg production and rate of maturity might actually lessen, but the mutation spurred by the toxic waste could easily expedite this process, so the spiders could create tens of thousands or even up to 1 million eggs with a faster rate of maturing, where even the young could hit reproductive maturity within just days or a few weeks.
One of my favorite stories about a spider having babies. There was a spider that had spider eggs on it, you know, like the spider egg on its back, the egg sac. And the customer had caught the spider and put it under a cup. Boom, got the spider, put the cup on it. The husband thought it was cool, so he didn't want to kill it. So he put a little piece of paper on it, and they left it on the counter. The next day, the guy calls me, because the wife called me the day of, and the husband didn't want to get rid of the spider. I was like, hey, fine. Something happens, give me a call. The next day, the cat had knocked the cup over, and there were spider babies everywhere, just all over the kitchen. Oh my goodness. Oh Lord.
If the treatment plant could hold over 3,000 spiders every few feet, imagine how an entire country could be every kilometer or mile. Creating webbing across high population areas where even making the slightest vibration or cutting through could cause a horde of thousands of these huge spiders to be alerted to your presence, instantly swarming you to cocoon your entire body.
See, but that would be easy to manipulate though. We got a lot of ways to manipulate that. Hell, we could just go grenade fishing if that's the case. I feel like there'd be so many ways to outsmart spiders if we really had to fight them. I think we might be okay.
Yes, you could fight back, possibly with large munitions and fire, but
That's
much like the arachnids of Starship Troopers, they'll have a veritable hive mind on top of sheer numbers that are basically unemotional and only serve the needs of its matriarch.
I think you are completely underestimating the amount of heavy munitions and fuel that we have. Flamethrowers are just entirely too effective for something like this, dude. Large munitions are entirely too effective for this, dude. We'll blow swaths of spiders away in just seconds. I think we're okay. I think we can handle it.
The Horde will not be concerned with self-preservation, throwing relentless legions at you till ammo and infantry run dry, all while we try, in the very least, to prevent more of the webs and eggs being created and weaved across the lands, but to no avail. The production rate is just too fast.
Dude, you're not considering America's finest weapon in times like this, chemical warfare. These are just big bugs. That issue I talked about in the last video about the spider not getting stuff in it, that is not the problem with these big bugs. Just wheeling barrels of the stuff. It's extremely
Once
cheap.
you are cocooned or stuck, it's basically a cruel game over. Anything caught within the spider horde's webbing will have spiders, specifically matriarchal spiders like the mutated female orb weaver Consuela, will have you meeting a terrifying and painful death. You will be stabbed by extremely long fangs so that you can be injected with corrosive digestive acids
I don't like
to
that.
liquefy the
No,
internal
Jesus
organs of
Christ.
its prey so that it can drink you up like a human guts puree. The queen will direct everything to feed her and her horde's mutative need to never stop eating, fueling the hellacious and unnatural growth of their forms. In the beginning of the 8-legged outbreak, or ELO for short, only small animals and livestock will start to go missing and be found either with their bodies webbed up and liquefied or having their limbs scattered about like leftovers. The more the spider horde consumes, the more it will grow, all refraining from interacting with humans until the time is right, considering us as higher on the food chain and something to be avoided for the time being underground dwellers residing in sewers, caves, tunnels, and more, just places that will be largely out of sight by many a man, laying eggs, polluting sources, and multiplying without falter. In the span of only 2 weeks, did these spiders go from regular-sized little arachnids to being dog-sized or even bus-sized? Depending on the species of spider it evolved from, will it depend on their total capabilities and uses with the matriarchy of the spider army. Tank and Consuela, the second in command and queen of the spiders respectively, were gigantic, and with higher numbers will come more queens, more variations, and
That's
again,
also
higher
true.
birth rates and exponential growth, with exoskeletons and strength being enough to pierce through hardened materials, being able to resist fire, eventually gunfire, rip doors off cars, and knock vehicles over by ramming into them. Now, every once in a while, some people will come into the comment section saying they can survive. You might think you're some sort of badass that can hold their own and kick off spiders as stylishly as this.
Yeah, that would be me.
But you know
see,
what? You're
you
just
know.
gonna end up like this if we are being realistic. And sure, spiders can easily be shot down, engulfed in flames, and...
Oh god. Oh god.
Ooh, he doesn't have the guts for that anymore. Splattered with enough effort and means.
Oh,
but
Jesus.
with their mutative capabilities, even fire can be something they
That's
adapt
a problem.
to. Spiders can't burn.
He'll adapt.
They'll adapt to burning. Inducting others of its family tree, like the brown recluse or black widow, could lead to even more lethal venom, turning flying insects like wasps, yellow jackets, and even bees into drones for the spiders to control and use as aerial combatants to enlarge and destroy something like fighter jets and reconnaissance drones, while also creating large hives.
Now don't get ahead of yourself, buddy. They're not moving at Mach 1 speeds in the air, okay?
Spurring subsets of queen mutant bugs that attack humanity by even more coordinated and dangerous swarming methods. Speaking of swarms, we're going to be seeing infestations of dog-sized or even car-sized locusts devouring entire ecosystems in the span of just a few days.
What movie is that?
Again, Peter Jackson's version of Skull Island and all the giant insects that wiped out most of the expedition team and how resistant they were to damage and how easily they were able to consume people. But imagine that, but potentially reaching larger sizes and countrywide or even global numbers. Now, picture that, but now each of them is now working to serve a queen, instead of just working as thoughtless predators trying to fill their belly. Any and all insects, spiders, and creatures of similar stature could become gigantic queen-simping killing machines on the fly. The only way of preventing an 8-legged freak apocalypse is by finding the spiders before they have expanded into other genetic territories, before they even reach larger sizes, and most importantly, before their numbers could be way too much to handle.
And I can admit that it would be a war on a timeline. I can admit that. I can admit that this war would need us to take the offensive early.
Before they are able to pollute local water sources and possibly food sources so other insects are not mutated. All able-bodied people can and will take up arms and attempt to fight back. But ultimately, as stated before, it would be fruitless against such numbers per square mile or kilometer. Airstrikes, chemical attacks, and Mother Nature's great cleanser fire would be the only go-tos for wiping them out, but this would also require knowing exactly where this horde was growing and expanding underneath our feet. The growth of their intellect could ultimately determine if we even will adequately be able to stop them before it's too late. It's possible by the time they have their own version of Gears of War's Emergence Day that it would be too much to handle. That diversity of the arachnid army would be too much, as every offense and defense we have would be exhausted as their numbers continued to multiply,
disgusting.
turning large portions of the planet into web-ridden mess.
See, the thing is, though, no army can be sustained without food, okay? And they're eating us, but are we eating them? Because if we're eating them, I think we're fine. But also, is there enough of us for them to eat to grow to car size, truck size? Would we even have to be worried about a truck size arachnid? There would be not enough food to support something that size. It would die off before it had enough biomass to sustain itself, I think.
With all living things being sucked dry, with nothing left inside but bones and despair.
That's what she said.
Bones and despair.
It doesn't matter how advanced and developed our
one.
weapons and own numbers are when their reproduction and induction methods, on top of exponential growth and virile toxins, would simply outlast and cripple us as a species, as well as our means of food production.
I disagree. I'm stopping the video here. We're on this exponential growth argument. I completely disagree. I definitely don't think we're going to have any exponential growth problems with fighting spiders. You know, growth doesn't happen exponentially with anything, okay? Exponential is the end-all, be-all. You know, it can only grow in relation to its food source. And then there are natural barriers. Like, no matter how much they, evolve, they're not going to be able to cross the Atlantic or something like that. You know, they can't survive in weather that's too cold anyways. They have to go dormant for a certain amount of time. All those things are going to slow down production enough where I can tell you, okay, they're genetically mutated, so they are more aggressive and organized, and they're evolving very, very quickly from generation to generation. Those things are given. I'm not going to say we're not going to have a fight on our hands, but I am going to say that humanity is going to be way too organized to stop this kind of growth. And once we label them a pest, once you start seeing fat-ass spiders walking around, you're not going to wait for them to just keep growing. We're going to kill those shits immediately, okay? State of emergency happens the first time you see the first dog-sized spider. And I think we take the fight to them then and there and crush them inevitably. And also, if there's any cool kung fu kicks that can be done, I'm doing them. Unstoppable. Tell me what you think in the comments below. This video was kind of gross, but it was definitely fun. Thanks for the suggestion. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.